So you want to hit 9,000 trophies. Well, that can be a daunting task for a lot of people, but today I'm going to give you 8 must-know tips that will help you reach that goal in no time. Starting off with tip number 1, you are being too aggressive. Now, this is something that I've seen as a common trend in so many players who are looking to improve. They are being just way too aggressive. Now, how does my opponent have 17 more elixir than me? I wonder, because it feels like that a lot of the time, doesn't it? It feels like they have so much more elixir than you, but in reality, they don't. It's just that you're spending too much on your pushes early in the game. What you should be focusing on instead is positive elixir trades. Try and defend things for as cheap as possible, although you don't want to give up damage, obviously. You will talk about overcommitting. That's actually something really important later on, but you mainly just want to make sure that you're taking it slow. When your opponent's sitting at 10 elixir or 8 elixir, you don't want to be going all in at the bridge. You're just giving them the opportunity to defend for easy, get a counter push, and put yourself down elixir. So when you can, try and play slower. Figure out what your opponent's playing. Don't go with your win conditions into an opponent's full elixir bar. Things like that will help you not lose the game instantly. And this goes directly into tip number 2, which is counter pushing, both for and against. Learning the art of counter pushing is something that will take your gameplay from here to here, and it's pretty simple to understand, but it's something that a lot of casual players don't really look at. So counter pushing, what is this? Well, let's say I have a musketeer, and I play a musketeer to defend a balloon, and then I play a knight in front of my musketeer after the balloon is dead, and now my musketeer is on offense. That is a counter push. So the goal with counter pushes is to get positive elixir trades from your defense and then turn that into a push, because what that does is allows you to get extra elixir value. Because let's say, I mean, balloon is 5, musketeer is 4, that's already a +1 trade, and then you got the offensive value, and your opponent still has to spend elixir on the musketeer, so they're spending way more than 5 or 4 elixir on the musketeer. So that's going to open up whether you can go opposite lane, whether you can commit more with that. Try and defend with things that you can use to build up your push. And, you know, that maybe that's not using a spell or keeping something alive, or maybe taking a little bit of extra damage so that you can keep something alive. Counter pushing is really, really important, and it's going to set you up for success. So whenever you're defending, think about positive elixir trades, trying to get the cheapest defense you can, and sometimes try and defend with things you can use to build a push instead. But what might even be more important is avoiding giving your opponents counter pushings. What is that? What is a counter push? Well, basically, if I'm a minor loon player, I have minor balloon, I have a snowball, I don't have any big spell, and my opponent's playing lumber loon with an electro dragon, evo, and inferno dragon. So I am not able to kill their Inferno Dragon and Electro Dragon because I physically can't when it's on their side of the board. So when I go Balloon, they are defending it and they're getting a push with that, which is cheaper for them. Because if you think about it, let's say they slap a Mega Knight in front of it. That's, my math is not mathing, 16 elixir. You can't just slop down 16 elixir pushes, but if you play defense and then get a counter push, you can build one push without having to build a push necessarily. So you want to try, in every time you're going into a game, you want to find out what your opponent has and avoid being too aggressive until you know how to not give your opponent a counter push. Whether it's having the right spell to deal with their troops, or just having the right card combo and maybe waiting for them to play that troop or something like that. Just always look at trying to avoid giving your opponents counter pushes. Even if you have to avoid pushing, it's not worth it to give your opponents big counter pushes because they will be way, way harder for you to defend. Tip number 3 is you have a bad deck, and this is something that's always going to come up. I understand the game is like pay to win, and honestly even pay to play at this point, but you will not be able to succeed without a decent deck. I highly recommend going to royaleapi.com to find the best decks. I can give you a detailed tutorial in my Discord if you want on how to find a specific deck you're looking for, but the website is amazing. Love these guys, and it's got all the information you can need. It's the best Clash Royale website out there, and to be honest, if you have a bad deck, you're going to have a much harder time just playing. So if possible, I understand that some people just want to play their own deck. If you want to, you be my guest. You're gonna have to deal with the struggles of it being bad, but if that's how you want to have fun, then just go ahead and do that. But try and find a better deck to start leveling up, and just go to Royale API and look at the best decks, and you'll be able to see which ones are good, and you should definitely try and fix your deck. Tip number 4, back onto something that you can actually control with any deck: tracking cycle. This is something that's really simple to do. do, but a lot of people kind of overlook it. Let's say I'm playing Goblin Barrel and my opponent has a log. My opponent, when they log the Goblin Barrel, now needs to play 4 more cards to get back to another log. So you don't need to know every single card, where it is in his hand every single moment of the game. Just keep an eye on close, like really important cards and how close they are. So if I'm playing a Goblin Barrel and my log is my main counter, I'm going to think, okay, I can maybe outcycle the log, right? And so I'm going to count. Okay, every time he plays another card, he's 3 away from log, 2 away from log, 1 away from log, back to log. And this will help me kind of build my offense around what he's looking at. And this works with anything. You know, this works with spells, big spells. Is he back to lightning? Is he back to this counter? This will help you make predictions too if you want to get, you know, snazzy and get a TikTok clip. But having a good idea of tracking cycle and just practicing on 1 card at a time. Practice on 1 card at a time and you'll be able to pick up 2, you'll be able to pick up 3. Next thing you know, you'll be able to track cycle really well. Tip number 5 is overcommitting. You have to trust your cards, and this will only come with time and practice. But how, this kind of leads back into what I was saying earlier. How does my opponent have 17 elixir? Well, part of the reason is you might not even be knowing that you're giving your opponent positive trades. So I was watching the greatest of all time play yesterday, and she has Cannoneer bait, so she went with a cannon on a skeleton barrel, and didn't trust that the cannon was going to deal with it, and overcommitted with the princess. That's a -3 trade, and she was playing against a deck where you absolutely need to have your princess in cycle. So everything just started going downhill from there. It started being down 3 elixir. It started not having the right answer, so you had to overcommit with something else. And now you can't save that for the Mega Knight. And it all just starts like unraveling. And that's something that I think can be avoided if you just really try and practice and trust the cards and avoid overcommitting on things. There's no way other than practice that you're going to be able to tell what overcommitting is and isn't. But obviously you can tell if you're spending too much elixir on something. Sometimes it's worth it maybe to take an extra 200-300 damage to save elixir with any deck in the game, just to maintain either an elixir lead or to not get a deficit. Hope that does make sense. Tip number 6 is to watch your replays. This is tedious, but just knowing what you did wrong is going to help you improve. What I like to say is, if I lose a game, but I know what I did wrong and I improve on that, that's a win to me. Because everybody loses games, right? Sometimes you just get a hard counter. Okay, sometimes the matchup's just really bad. And that happens. But a lot of the time, you're making mistakes that maybe you don't realize in the moment. You might think to yourself, hey, what am I doing wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong. I can't do anything. This is impossible. But then you go back and look, and you're like, hey, well, maybe if I did this, this, and this differently, this is where I went wrong. This is where I started taking damage. So if I back up like 10, 15 seconds, what could I have done differently? And it's not about this specific scenario, because you're not trying to train yourself for this specific Mega Knight skeleton barrel push. You're training yourself to think differently. You're training yourself to play defense differently, because it will help you in more situations than just that one push, and it will make you a better player. Number 7, expect the weird. You have to be on your toes and ready for literally anything. Your opponent probably has the biggest hard counter to you. Assume the worst at all times. Assume there is a Mega Knight coming down on every one of your pushes. Assume the worst, and you won't be disappointed. You won't be caught off guard. Specifically in Trophy Road, people run the weirdest decks. So just keep an open mind and play passively until you can figure out what your opponent is playing, and then you can build a strategy around that. Expect to be countered. Expect to have weird matchups. Expect your opponents to not make sense with what they're doing, but don't let that throw you off guard. Try and be prepared for it. Tip number 8, you must maintain the mental. It's such an easy thing to say, right? But if you are being like debuffed, like if you're tired, if you're hungry, if you're angry, if you're upset, if you have a headache, all these things are hurting you. All these things are going to make you play worse. So when you can, if possible, try and play when you're right, when you're ready to play. Don't force yourself to play. If you're tilted, take a break. I know it's easy to say, and I know I haven't taken breaks before, but it helps to just get off. Just get off, get on later when you're feeling good, because you will get the wins back. You're very capable of getting the wins back. And it's so much easier to untilt if you don't let yourself get in a massive tilt in the first place. So whatever it takes to maintain your mental, everybody is different. Whatever it takes to help you focus and stay focused and stay positive, and just make sure that when you lose a game, you don't let it affect your next game. don't let it affect your next game. That's something that's helped me a lot on ladder and other things. Just staying focused and understanding that losses happen and just trying to improve and having a growth mindset is going to affect that as well and make you a much better player. And once you practice these things, maybe it happens overnight, maybe it doesn't happen overnight, you will be on your way, well on your way to 9,000 trophies and maybe even more, maybe ultimate champion, maybe even more. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like if it did help you.